Welcome back, you guys. Very interesting build tonight. We are going to be doing a Glock 43 in a Wonder Woman pattern. So very interested in starting this project, seeing how it unfolds. Had a local customer come by. We discussed those options, figured out what the best course of plan is and the best direction to take. And we ironed out a lot of those details. And now it comes down to we're going to do the work. We're going to get that turned out. Wanted to show that to you guys. Let's discuss it here briefly. We've got a couple pieces to the puzzle. We're going to take them one at a time. Kind of want to give you an overview of what it exactly is we're trying to achieve as the work does unfold. And of course, we'll do a review once we have this as a completed piece in hand. So we're going to start with the slide work. Now, the idea behind the slide is we want to add the Wonder Woman logo on the top rear section of the slide. So right in front of the rear sight, we're going to add the Wonder Woman logo right here. Very nice. And then on the front, we're going to be doing the top wave. Now, we've done the top wave on several other weapons out there. We've done them on some of the Glock 19 slides. We've done a bunch of them on the Taurus. So this is an opportunity to finally do one on a smaller Glock. And the deal behind this is, since we have such a large front sight that protrudes towards the rear of the gun, we want to use a smaller end mill to create a smaller, tighter, more detailed pattern, but yet not allow the front sight to come into the first hole. And we also don't want to get too close to where the barrel locks up. So if we were to use the typical cutter, we would end up having to push this pattern back. We'd be very close to where the barrel locks up. So we're going to use a smaller cutter. We're going to be able to get a little bit more detail off that. We're going to hopefully stay up off that front iron sight, and in the end give us the best exposure and the best design, the way that we're going to have that unfold. Okay, so let's get on to the sides here. So we're going to be doing a complete shave on both of the sides. Then we're going to be doing a step down, and then we're going to be doing our double window as you guys normally see. And then usually we do some simulated windows. We're not going to be doing that. We're going to end up doing just a big step down here. So the typical pattern that we see that we offer with like the Raptor cuts is step down, which cleans everything up. Then it's window, then it's like 4 simulated windows, okay? This one's going to be step down, or this one's going to be shave side all the way from the rear serrations forward, step down, window, and then in this step down we have some text that we're going to be doing. This side's going to be the same. It's going to be a shave, then it's going to be a step down, then it's going to be window. Overall, it's one, going to give us a little bit more detail, and two, as we get towards the coloring portion of this build, it's going to be able to allow us to show more detail. So overall, I think it's a really good idea. Now, let's see what else is on the slide. So as far as my notes go, it doesn't look like there's anything else on the slide other than coloring, which we'll get to here in a moment. Framework, of course, this is going to get all stripped down. We're going to pull those gold parts off, and we're going to end up doing a Wonder Woman base stippling pattern around the mag release, and we're not going to go up into here. One of the ideas that we've seen on some of ours was, are we going to stipple up in here? The idea behind us is that with the Wonder Woman pattern that we're going to be doing, it ends up being kind of a larger pattern. You guys will see that as it unfolds. And what we don't want to do is just kind of butcher it. Okay, so what we don't want to do is have little fragments of pattern left over, but no real pattern, then in the end it doesn't really make any sense. So to kind of give you guys the overview, the Wonder Woman logo is pretty much a W, and instead of just doing www down through here, because I thought that would look kind of odd, I did a reverse. So what it's going to be is it's going to be like WW, and then the pattern has been rolled. So it's upside down W, then a right side up W, then an upside down W. And the idea is it's more of a design. It looks almost like a textured based design, and of course it is still the logo. So it gives us the opportunity to not only utilize the logo, but it also does give us a little bit more of a neat, tight fitting pattern. We will discuss this a little bit more in the end, but if you happen to look at the Wonder Woman logo, there's a lot of gaps between the sides because it kind of extends out, and what that would mean is we would have a lot of gaps in the design work. So we ended up doing a kind of like a brick pattern in every other, and then we rolled it. So very cool. We'll be shaving the sides, then we'll be doing the sides on that. Now, one of the more advanced pieces to this puzzle was the request on the mag extension. So the mag itself down here is a different polymer than what we get with the Glock. So this is going to get shaved down, all these little knobs, and we're going to run the Wonder Woman logo in here, and of course we'll run the Wonder Woman logo over here. So instead of having all the little ones like we're going to be doing up and through here, we'll just have one big logo down and through here. That's going to be very interesting because with different polymers you yield different results, overall different quality. We see this a lot on the market, and that's one of the reasons why we don't see a lot of deep patterns like we see on some of the standard factory frames. So we don't see a lot of the deep patterns on the polymers polymer 80. We don't see a lot of the deep patterns on what would be some of the SIGs. So it's going to be a little bit challenging because we've got to make sure that we're going to be doing a deep pattern. We're kind of noted for quality, so we want to make sure that we do a deep pattern. We also want to make sure that we're not going to be punching a hole through it. So I know it's going to be hard to see here, but we don't want to make sure that we go down into it. We do need to make sure that we keep the rigidity overall. So blue, red, that's going to be the overall pattern of the frame and the slide. The colors of Wonder Woman is the blue, the red, and the gold. So we have some gold components here. We also have a gold drop-in barrel that was already purchased, so that's going to be our portion of the gold as far as that goes. In the end, we're going to be able to show you the whole idea, but the idea right now is going to kind of be underlining what was going to be red on the slide and on the frame, and then we'll blue titanium over it, and then we'll do a battle wear through it. So I think it's going to be the best result. A lot of people happen to like a blue titanium gun. We do still see a lot of people that request an all red gun, but it's just not quite as attractive as the red offset through the blue, and we see more blue. Okay, so blue and gold is a very popular combination. So with that being said, guys, I think what we're going to do now is we're going to jump over to the, oh, you know what? We skipped one thing on the slide that was a last minute change. I'm just thinking about now. We're adding a Cobra nose as well. So that, as the customer came by and we discussed, that was not part of our puzzle, and I remembered we are adding a Cobra nose to the slide. So we're going to be able to see a little bit of barrel out through the sides at the nose of the slide. So there may be some additional changes as we work through the project, so we might see some changes towards the end. We will discuss those, but always up until the point of where we start a project, the customer does have the ability to take away and add to and figure out what they want to change. So sometimes there's a little bit of open ground there to still play with before we actually start a project. All right, guys, so off to the Tormach 770 we go. We're going to go ahead and get the sides done, the top done. We're going to navigate over to the laser. We're going to see some laser stippling. We're going to see some logo work. We're going to see some advanced work on what's going to be the mag extension down here. Overall, pretty excited about this, and let's just kind of see what we come up with. Alright guys, let's take a look and see exactly how this came out in the end as a final build with all of the pieces. Now, I've broken this down into 4 different sections because we have a lot of detail in here. I want to make sure that we didn't skip anything, and then of course we've added some stuff to the build that we did not discuss at the beginning of this build when the story first was unfolding, and that is the barrel. So we didn't happen to have this barrel, we had a different barrel, and obviously you guys know how that is. Sometimes we change direction mid-project, we add things, we take things away, and in the end we come up with some sort of a different result, and we've got new pieces to the puzzle. So we want to just make sure that you guys have the opportunity to see all of that stuff, to gather all of the essential information on each one of these in the event that you wanted to have something done or you wanted a portion of something done. I want to first start by saying, before we jump into this, that this was probably one of the most enjoyable builds I've done in a long time. So we happen to do a lot of different advanced builds. We obviously do a lot of stuff that we've already done before, fine-tuning that to the customer's request. but this happened to be something that was just totally different. You know what I mean? We had not done a pattern like this on the frame, on the barrel. We had not had the opportunity to do a different branded mag extension. So there just was a lot going on here that I enjoyed. There was a big say that I had over it. Customer obviously knew where we wanted to be. I obviously knew where the customer's mindset was in the end, but it was a really enjoyable build. It really was. Guys, let's take you guys through that. Show it to you a little bit more. As we kind of had discussed at the beginning of the video, we ended up doing a shaved side with a step down with the dual windows. We ended up doing some text in here. I don't 100% know how the lighting is going to work in here. This is a new light, so you guys can obviously tell it looks slightly different than what we typically see. We will be adding pictures in here. We are just kind of playing this one out to see what kind of quality we get overall using the new light source. I'm sure there's going to be some discoloration because it's not under natural light, and that is the main reason we do put the pictures in the video. We do want to be able to show you guys what it looks like under natural lighting. So definitely a nice change. Shaved the side, worked around the ejection side with the extractor and the ejection port here. Obviously we ended up doing the step down. We did the dual window, the nice top tight cut wave, top wave cut on the top I should say. Did not have an issue with the iron sight going into it, so we ended up correctly relocating the way in which the cutter was going to come into the metal and where it starts and where it ends. Gave us a nice area for lockup, gave us an opportunity not to hit the front sight. Overall, really nice blended pattern working with existing pieces on the slides, because the sights were provided from the customer before we started the work. Cobra nose, so this was one of the last pieces to the puzzle that we ended up talking about. Really, really nice. We're going to be able to see some nice barrel out through there. We will get to the coating here in a moment. Let's talk about the frame. We ended up shaving the sides down, cleaned them up a little bit better so they look a little bit nicer. We ended up doing that brick type Wonder Woman design as we had discussed, going in one direction, flipping, going into another direction, not leaving a lot of empty zoned space. So sometimes we run into this with different logos where, you know, we could do one big logo and a lot of miniature logos around it, or we could do some sort of a brick type pattern like this and make it work and blend it, and that's kind of what we did here. I think it was the best choice. We did want it to stand out for what it is, and we also didn't want to do big Wonder Woman logo, and we're going to get to it in a moment, and another Wonder Woman logo. It just didn't really logically make sense to just double stack it. So we ended up doing the logo up here for where your finger would go. Nice, nice, nice. Like that a lot. So this is this side. And once again, if we haven't included them already, the pictures will definitely show this slightly better. Okay, let's talk about the mag extension. Now, this was definitely one of the more challenging pieces to this build because I didn't know what it was going to look like when we stripped it down. I didn't know what it was going to look like when we engraved it. I really just didn't know how the pattern was going to go. And quite honestly, this was the second one. We destroyed one right straight up front. One side looked pretty good. The other side was pretty rough. And I think that in the end, for what the cost was, as far as finishing the build correctly, it made the most sense to replace the piece and try again. And sometimes we run into that. You know, that was one of the warnings that I gave the customer right straight up front was, I don't know what we're going to get. You know, as we smooth down the sides, I don't know if we're going to get a lot of the straggling, fragmented fibers like we see with some of the other polymers that are over there. I don't know what we're going to get when we engrave it because I don't know how well it's going to play out with the fiber laser and the pattern. So it ended up being one of those things that a customer could always just go back to a black one if they didn't end up liking it. Overall, I think it fits the build pretty good. We're getting a ton of reflection off of it in here because we ended up doing a 3 base coat, which we'll get to here in a moment. And of course, we ended up having a different barrel. So customer had kind of asked a couple questions through the build about what can we do with the factory barrel? Should we do something with the factory barrel? Or I should say the barrel that was provided. And I think in the end we kind of had decided it was just limited on what we could do. It already had an engraving on the ejection side. It was already fluted, which prevented us from doing stuff. So in this particular case, we ended up doing a pattern all the way around it here. As you guys can see, nice tight pattern. We'll be able to see that out through the sides. And then of course, we ended up doing the logo on the ejection side. We left the top alone. I thought it was a nice, kind of a nice look anyhow, because one, I didn't want to see a lot of wear on it, and two, since it's straight and then it kind of tapers down, it kind of just turns into one of those, it's problematic because we see a lot of high wear right on the roll. We start to see a lot of high wear, and you know, ultimately that's where your problem's going to be. So I thought, let's not do a logo right there and cause a problem. Also, it's tapered on the top, so the logo would be somewhat odd shaped. What we're going to do now is we're going to build this And let's just kind of see what it looks like as a whole. More than likely, you guys have probably got a pretty good visualization of that anyhow with some of the pictures, but I still want to show it to you guys. I am working behind the camera with my hands in front of the camera, so we'll just see kind of what we come up with here. And overall, really liking the build. Glad to have the opportunity to do it. Really glad to have the opportunity to work with just a local individual who kind of just gave me that freedom to kind of just do whatever it was I wanted to do with it, yet we both had a lot of the same mindset, you know, overall of what, you know, what do we want it to look like and how's it going to look. Let's talk about that color now that everything's together. So we ended up going with a Smith & Wesson red on what is our undercolor. Okay, and then blue titanium on the on the outside color, and then what we did was we did a wear, and then we did a clear. That's why we're getting a lot of matte. Of course, we're getting a ton of reflection off of it from the light that's in here. It almost looks like it's wet because we're getting so much glare off of it. But anyhow, guys, really nice combination between the two. One of the things I was worried about right straight going up front into this was if we ended up going with a red that was really dark, and we start wearing some of it, we're going to see some of the black that's through here, just like on the frame we do see some of the silver. We do somewhat of a hard wear on those high edges, and I was afraid that the red was going to blend with the black, and if the blue was too dark, then we're not going to see a lot of the red, and I wasn't sure how that was all going to blend together, whether or not we were going to lose some of that in the process. So I'm really pleased with the way that this came out. Somewhat of a little bit of a newer style of the battle wear than what we would typically do. Big thank you to You Know Exactly Who You Are from Facebook. Somebody reached out to me and gave me some techniques of how they do it. They specialize in coatings. We don't specialize in coatings, although our coatings are really high quality, but we don't specialize in pattern coatings and techniques and things like that. So it's always cool when somebody reaches out to us and kind of just says, hey, have you thought about this? Have you tried this? And that's what we did. So we ended up doing this a little bit different. Ultimately, I'm really pleased with the way that it came out. Definitely a looker. I'm really just excited about it as a whole, from where we started to where we are now. Just really cool. Guys, there's some other stuff that I want to show you, and let's just talk about it. All right, guys, well, hopefully you enjoyed that build. I know I did. I think it was an opportunity to show you guys some stuff that we don't typically offer. Really just give you more of a feel of us as a company. I want to take a couple minutes here and talk to you about some of the new services that we're going to be offering. We are still ironing out a lot of those details. I do know that we've put out a very short video just a little while ago demonstrating this, but I wanted to kind of just go over a little bit more. I know not everybody watches those individual videos. Sometimes they watch the bigger ones, and some of that stuff gets skipped. And I'm hoping to just kind of give you guys a little bit more of an understanding of where we are and where we hope to be. So with that being said, we happen to have a lot of requests here lately for SIG laser stippling on frames. We are starting to see a lot of those 80% kits out of the market. You can purchase them. They do ship to your door. Of course, you know, there's stipulations to that where they've got to be completed and that kind of thing. But what that means is we happen to find a lot of people ordering frames that they want to have work done on them. Okay, so they're like, hey, there's no FFL required. Can I ship it to you? Can you ship it right back to my door? And the answer to that is yes. It's a door-to-door based service. We have done stippling on these in the past as far as services that have been offered on larger projects and things. Typically, we have been turning them down on smaller projects because we just really weren't geared up for it, to be quite honest with you. We stay really busy doing mostly cut work and a large portion of laser work on steel and stainlesses, but not so much on frames. We're trying to switch gears here a little bit. We are starting to see a lot of the market get flooded with Glock style engravings, and we do want to start targeting more of the market of where we feel comfortable in on the processes that we would normally offer. So in other words, there's not as many people doing it. Why don't we do it? We enjoy doing it. Why don't we stop doing what everyone else is doing? That's kind of to put it in black and white. So I want to show this to you a little bit more. So the idea is that yes, we have done laser stippling on the older style SIG frames, the ones that are significantly thicker here. The logo or the grip pattern stops about here. We have worked on those before. I don't think we will continue to work on them. There's just a lot more cleanup to be done. It just ends up being one of those things that there's a lot more time involved, so ultimately it's a lot more costly for you because we have more time involved in it, so we don't want to do that. Also, a lot of the kits that you're starting to see today are coming with grips that look like this, which you'll see with the SIG logo here in the center. So it ends up being one of those deals where everybody's starting to transition over to these anyhow, so why not just offer that? So the difference between what we offer as a company and what some of the other companies offer offer is that a lot of the companies that happen to do polymer 80s and SIGs do some sort of a two-tone. So what they'll do is they'll take a frame and they'll color it just like this, and they'll color a tan or a green or a gray or a silver, and then they'll laser through it and they'll show another color. The only downside to that is there's really no grip texture to it. There's absolutely no more than what is on it from the factory right here, because they haven't actually gone down into the polymer at all. Once again, that's why we're seeing a lot of a two-tone look and not so much of a single color deep look. So we do have a lot of guys that reach out and say, well, maybe they're just after the two-tone. Well, for us, we do offer the two-tone, but we also offer an actual deep based engraving with actual texture. And you guys can hear this on my glove. And then when you do it here, you really just don't get it. And the reason for that is because there's a place for your skin to go down in these holes. So when you're gripping this, there's actually, traction down in here where your actual fingers would sit and would rest. At some point in time, we will probably start offering this. We'll probably start offering the back zone. Right now, we're not. We are just gently getting into this market to see how many people are actually wanting it done. What kind of patterns are they looking for? If it just doesn't seem like there's that much of a request, because we do see some of the grip modules that are coming out from Wilson Combat and some of the other people, then we just won't do it. So that's kind of, we're just slowly getting into the pool to see if we want to actually, do this or not. We're just testing the waters. So feel free to reach out to us if you happen to have any questions about what can be done. Right now, services are limited. These are the services for these grips, no matter what size you have. As long as it has the SIG logo and it's flat on the side, it is offered regardless of the size frame that you have. So if you happen to go to the webpage, you go to service, you go to SIG, here it is. You'll actually get to choose pattern and color on the way out, during checkout. So it's one of those things. Now, one of the main reasons that we brought out one of the Ready mods, this is probably a Gen 1 since we've had it for quite a while, is that this is also something that we're hoping to shortly start targeting the market on this as well. I do not know if we're just going to be doing very similar to the SIGs, where there is already a gripped zone and we'll work in the zone, or if it's going to be more like a Ready mod where we're going to do the whole thing. I'm not 100% sure how that's going to work out. I do know that this frame itself and our other SIG frame is almost 2 years old, I think. It could be over 2 years old. I don't know the exact day. What I can tell you is that we've been doing them for a long time, but 95% of the time when you ask, it's a service that's not offered. And we gear it that way just because at the time we weren't set up for it. It didn't make any sense to do just frames with so much going on. Right now we have, step back a little bit because we haven't had quite as much work come in, but we've had a lot of big stuff come in, as you guys have seen on, some of the other stuff that we've done and turned out. But what this has done is it really has allowed the machines to work, and it has given us the opportunity to spend a little bit more time on what those requests are, okay? Not feeling so rushed with getting everything done and trying to figure out what those requests are and how we cater to the market. So I think it's a great opportunity for you guys to get something done. It's a pretty quick turnaround time. Something like a grip module like these is going to be about a week or less. Right now we're having you guys provide them, so we don't stock them because I don't know what size grip you need and or how many different versions there really are, because some of them have like a decocker on the side, some have a dual, so we end up finding that there's obviously different versions of it out there. So ideally you providing your grip and us working on something that you've provided assures us that we get the correct work done on the correct piece. We do remove the mag release for you and reinstall it for you. You're more than welcome to take it off if you like, but we do that for you as well. And hopefully at some point in time we will start actually selling these pre-done, so you basically make a purchase and we would ship. But as of right now, that's kind of where it is. We do encourage you to follow along. This is the stuff that you will be seeing on YouTube going forward. We have a lot of new builds catered around this kind of stuff, so we're going to start seeing more SIG stuff. We are going to start seeing more of the Polymer 80 builds that we're doing and things like that. It's an opportunity for us because setting up at the gun shows now will allow us to do some of the grip modules. We can complete some for our own weapons as display, and then of course we can complete some that are still in the 80% format and be sold. So it's kind of one of those deals. I think there's an opportunity for you guys there. Now, and I also know there's a ton of you guys that do what we do. You're curious to see how it's done. You're curious to see how the quality is and what it looks like. And we obviously want you to follow along as well. We'll do our best to answer those questions the best we can with still staying inside of our lane as far as being a business. We don't want to create any competition and things that where the market isn't already to. So if we happen to be a little bit ahead of people, we're not going to let the market catch us just by answering questions. So that's one of the reasons that we do encourage you to watch along. You can see some of that stuff yourself, and hopefully you'll at least have that positive attitude that it can be done. We do see that a lot as well, where people just don't think things can be done, and this is an opportunity to see that things can progressively mature into a final build and look good. So it definitely gives you that reassurance that you can do it, that it can be done on that hardware. So guys, if you need anything, feel free to reach out to us. And if you guys want any more of this stuff done, or want to see any more of this, we will have some new patterns listed on the webpage. That's where the pictures will show up. Or of course, they'll be on our Instagram. Reviews are on our Facebook account. We just happen to have stuff all over the place. So just do a little bit of Googling for NCEngravers, and I'm sure you'll be pretty pleased with what you come up with. Have a good one.